Okay, so here we are live with another DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is the Penguin from DC Classic, which means it's the Penguin I remember from when I was a kid. Now, looking at him just in the box, like it does have very much of a Burgess Meredith sort of feel to it, but the head sculpt to me looks a little more like Danny DeVito. Not Danny DeVito when he played the Penguin, no, like Danny DeVito if he made him up like the comic book version of the Penguin. If that makes any sense. Now, the Penguin at one time, I would say not that long ago, if you think about it, but I would say at least by the late 80s, was considered by most to be probably the second most prominent Batman villain. If not the second most prominent, he would at least be up there with the Riddler and Catwoman, because those were the four big villains that you had on the television series. I remember that I had a Fisher Price book and cassette entitled Batman and Robin in the Case of the Laughing Sphinx. And, where the Superman book and cassette had Lex Luthor as the villain, because obviously Lex Luthor is Superman's biggest villain. And the Wonder Woman set had the Cheetah, because the Cheetah is considered Wonder Woman's biggest villain for some reason. Batman and Robin had to go up against all four of their greatest villains. Now, part of that is probably because Batman has such a great rogues gallery in general, but I have to imagine part of the decision-making process in that was like these four villains are so big, we have to fit them in there, and the Penguin was one of those. Now, I say until at least the late 80s, because Warner Brothers Studios, when they were getting ready to do the sequel to the 1989 Batman film, the studio executives really wanted the Penguin to be the villain, and Tim Burton, the director, really wanted to do Catwoman. And at the end of the day, they wound up compromising and doing both Penguin and Catwoman. Hi, Sean Franklin. How we doing today? Yeah, the other day after we talked about Prince, like I turned on my Spotify to drive to work, and it recommended to be the This Is Prince playlist. So I was like, it's destiny. I'm gonna have to listen to some Prince today. So that's what I've been listening to since. But yeah, getting back to the Penguin, in the Golden Age, the Penguin was definitely like the second most famous villain after Batman Returns is my favorite movie. That's a good choice for a favorite movie. I really enjoy Batman Returns. So in the Golden Age, the Penguin was definitely the most prominent Batman villain after the Joker, of course, being the number one. But I think the thing that caused the Penguin's position to wane as far as being the number two Batman villain. And there's a lot of other contenders for number two. Maybe Catwoman would have taken that spot. Maybe it would be Bane. Maybe it would be Ra's al Ghul. Maybe it would be Two-Face. It would make sense if Two-Face was the number two Batman villain, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think the problem is that in the late part of the Silver Age, early part of the Bronze Age, when you had the Batman television series was finally ending, and the Silver Age comics had very much been influenced by the television series, and they were trying to get away from that. And it's easy to reinvent Batman to make him less like the television series. You just take the character back to his darker vigilante roots. With the Joker, the same thing. They could take the Joker back to when he was like a darker, creepier character. But the Penguin was pretty much always the way that Burgess Meredith portrayed him on the television show. So how do you try to take the Penguin away from what the television show portrayed him as when the television show portrayed him perfectly? So, anytime they did the Penguin, if they were doing them right, they were doing them like the Burgess Meredith version. In fact, when they actually did him in Batman Returns, they had to kind of completely reinvent the character in a very creepy Tim Burton-y way to get him to fit into the tone of the movie. Sean Franklin says my Uncle James, his favorite superhero, Wonder Woman and Storm from the X-Men, Batman, and Superman. Those are all great characters. Those are all characters I would consider favorite superheroes of mine as well. So, so yeah. So the Penguin's kind of like fallen off a little bit as far as like his regard in terms of Batman villains, and I think that's a shame because I think the Penguin's a great villain. I think the Burgess Meredith version of the Penguin is still a great villain, and you could probably do that in like a serious context, maybe not in like a creepy Tim Burton kind of context, but they could have made him work. And I certainly like the Danny DeVito version of the Penguin better than, you know, the one from the Batman where they just turned him into, you know, Al Capone from The Untouchables, where they just pretty much looked at Robert De Niro playing Al Capone in that and said, "Oh, let's just do that again." But I like the Danny DeVito version as its own thing. I think that's a great character. But I love the Burgess Meredith version. I love the classic version of the Penguin. I'm glad to have this character. Speaking of other versions of the Penguin, I do have the Arkham City version of the Penguin. I'm pretty sure that these are going to reuse some parts, have some parts in common. So we're going to compare and contrast those two figures. So that should be fun. Got a nice piece of artwork on the back. This is from an actual vintage Batman comic book cover. And I believe the illustrator of this was Mike Grell. And he's writing a pterodactyl, which looks kind of questionable there, doesn't it? Now, you'll see the Penguin in the figure has like a bright orange vest, and the one from the comic book illustration has a bright yellow vest. But oftentimes on the interior of the comics, they would illustrate the Penguin as having an orange vest, closer to this shade of orange, kind of like right in between orange and yellow. So, you know, it's appropriate to do it in either yellow or orange. There is a platinum edition variant of this where he's wearing a blue tuxedo jacket and top hat and a yellow vest, and that is an homage to the Superpowers toy line. If I'd have thought about it, I'd grab my Superpowers Penguin from across the room so you could see what I was talking about. But I'm sure you know what a Superpowers Penguin looks like, and if you don't, you can use your work the Google on your internet machine and figure that out. So let's go ahead and take Pengy out of the package. And he does have the figure stand on the insert, but it's only a figure stand on the insert since the trading card is on the stand on the inside. So I don't have to take this whole thing out, do I? I can just kind of peel it off. And unfortunately peel the entire cardboard backing with it, but we can get it up fairly easily since it's not a trading card. And we can see that it is the standard Mcfarlane stand with a silver DC emblem embossed on it, unlike the truly standard stands. Let me get some of the dust off of that, which have a black embossed emblem. But since Pengy is a fancy collector edition figure, that means overpriced. It says DC in silver. So let's go ahead and where can I get the figure? There we go. I'll set that aside for now. And we've got a double rubber tab holding in the trading card stand. Take that out. And this is a nice piece, as I've mentioned before. I don't think it's an extra $10 nice, but maybe an extra $5 nice. I think Mcfarlane should knock the price of these down to, you know, 25 instead of 30. 30 is too expensive. That's why I didn't buy Captain Boomerang, by the way, because I'm already buying like 2 of these things, and they're expensive. So there's the trading card. No border on this one. It's just got the Mcfarlane Collector Edition logo down the side in fancy silver foil stamped on the back too. That's what the back looks like. Let's go ahead and read it. The Penguin, DC Classic, data file, real name, Oswald Cobblepot. They say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but they also say, evil is as evil does. A master manipulator, the Penguin is usually surrounded by violent henchmen who do his bidding without question. But when it comes down to a face-to-face, expect him to unleash a deadly barrage from a variety of umbrella weapons and other ingenious devices, often taking the form of foul. That's foul as in birds, not foul as in ugh. Okay. But and when all else fails, the penguin will fight as dirty as they come. Hand-to-hand combat doesn't ruffle his feathers at all. And uh, the penguin in the comic books is a surprisingly capable hand-to-hand combatant, despite his short stature and pudgy physique. He is quite quick and nimble and pretty strong. More so than he would appear to be. He's got a lot of muscle under that tuxedo coat. You might not think it, but dude's got some guns. All right, so let's you got to read the Secret Origin special that they did around the time of the first Batman movie. They did a special Batman villain Secret Origin special with Two-Face and the Riddler and the Penguin. And Neil Gaiman wrote the framing sequences and the Riddler story, which I think is actually the best one, although it's not much of an origin. Spoiler warning. But the Penguin story, I believe, was written by Alan Grant and illustrated by Sam Keith, and it's quite excellent as well. And in homage to another recent Batman villain origin story at that time, it was entitled The Killing Peck. So, yeah. All right, so Penguin's accessories, and he does come with a few. Not as many that would, warrant a $30 price tag. Really, if he'd have come with like a few umbrella weapons, like maybe an umbrella with a sword, an umbrella with a gun, an umbrella with a flamethrower, then an opened up umbrella, maybe then I could have justified it. But no, he just comes with the one umbrella. We're going to get to that in a second. Got a closed fist for the right hand and a splayed open hand for the left hand. So he's got two extra hands. And then he's got this umbrella, which is a really nice umbrella. I don't even have to look it over to know it's a really nice umbrella because it's the same exact umbrella that came with the Arkham City version. So I already know it's a good umbrella. I don't have to look it over any further. It's like, it's not exactly the same because the Arkham City version is a slightly, I don't even know if it's coming across in the camera, but the Arkham City version is a slightly more pale shade of gold on the umbrella handle. But for those of you who did not watch my Arkham City Penguin unboxing, and you really should go ahead and do that after you finish this one, of course. It's got a really nice penguin head on the pommel of the umbrella handle. A lot of good detail to that. It's very nicely done. I believe that the Platinum Edition figure has a red umbrella rather than a black umbrella. But it does come with the same umbrella. All right, so now let's get Penguin himself out of the package. And this guy's got a lot more plastic tabs holding him in than Starfire had yesterday. He's got one around each arm. He's got a double tab around his tubby little middle, which looks like it's actually like kind of marred the paint a little bit at the bottom of his lapels, unfortunately. And then he's got one around each ankle. Let's go ahead and get those. Do you really need this? Did you really need to have that? Well, it's got to keep it quiet when you pull it out of the package. Because that didn't make any noise at all when I pulled it out of the package, did it? You didn't hear anything, did you? All right, so I want to compare the two penguins and see what parts that they share. And it looks like the upper part of the arms, from the elbow up, those look to be the same to me, which I kind of suspected would be the case. But the forearms are different because the Arkham version has the fur trim around the cuffs, and this one just has a regular tuxedo jacket, so it just got plain cuffs with little buttons on them and a little white shirt cuffs sticking out the bottom. And from the waist down, again, seems to be identical. So now I also noticed that the jacket piece on here is a soft rubber, probably because of the tailcoat, but this seems to be hard plastic. So I believe that the torsos are entirely unique. I was kind of thinking maybe since they were like soft rubber over hard plastic, maybe it was actually the same torso underneath all the tuxedo and the overcoat and all that kind of stuff. But no, I do believe that that is entirely an original torso. So they share the same upper arms and they share the same pants from the waist down. All of that is the same. So, but like I said, I don't mind reuse of parts as long as it's a clever reuse of parts. And why would you bother to sculpt an entirely new pair of stubby penguin legs when you already have a perfectly good pair of stubby penguin legs? You know, I would even forgive them for like reusing these legs if they did like a Danny DeVito version of the penguin, because it would work for that too. I think. All right, I like his hair. It's kind of longish in the back and kind of swoops up. It does kind of remind me of again Burgess Meredith on the television show. How his hair kind of like swooped up at the sides a little bit. This hat is it removable? I don't believe it's intended to be removable. I was thinking it might be because like you can see that it's on there kind of crooked, but I'm thinking that's more of a stylistic choice than anything at this point, because it is definitely solidly attached to the head. You can kind of peel it up a little bit at the sides, and you can see that again he has that kind of Danny DeVito-ish kind of hairline. Sometimes the penguin has a full head of hair under his hat, and sometimes he doesn't. Especially in this post Danny DeVito world, where like he was definitely bald under his hat in that, since we saw him without his hat a lot. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about his articulation and see what we can figure out with this. All right, so Pengy can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He is kind of jowly, so that kind of hinders somewhat the looking down, but that's fine. He can kind of tilt his head quizzically from side to side, move his head around in a lot of different ways because it is on a nice ball joint. Arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders, and they move up about that far. He does not seem to have a butterfly joint, as Mcfarlane toys often do, but it's the penguin. What are you going to do? Lil Zay said, I just bought the Earth 32 Green Lantern Batman. It's sick. Yeah, I think I have that one. Is that the no, wait. Is that the Dark Knight's Metal one? Because I have that one. That one came in the 2-pack with Hal Jordan, at least when I bought it. So yeah, and I have the Hal Jordan figure on here somewhere because I had all the Green Lanterns that I was taking pictures. Yeah, there he is. He looks kind of embarrassed though, like he just saw his own movie. But yeah, so yeah, we do have a bicep swivel. So he rotates all the way around the bicep, got the double jointed elbows, good range of motion on the elbows, especially because his arms are rather thick. He's got the Mcfarlane ball joints at the wrist, and apparently, odd choice here, they decided to give him black ball joints. Just strange, because he's wearing white gloves, and he's got white shirt cuffs, so you would think the color you'd want to put in between there, white, but they went with black. Why? That's just a weird choice. I could even understand like if they made it like Caucasian colored to match the rest of his skin, so it looked like skin in between the gloves and the cuffs. That might actually be a nice touch. But no, black for some reason. By the way, well, I talked about the extra hands that he came with, but these are the hands that are on the figure. One has a trigger finger, like he's holding a gun, and the other one has his again a trigger finger, but also his pinky extended, so you could like put a cup of tea in there or something like that. Now, one thing that is missing, I will say, from our classic version of the penguin, I wonder if it's on the box. It is on the box. They didn't edit the photo on the picture on the back. Is he does not have the penguin's classic cigarette with its cigarette holder. And that's probably a DC thing. That's probably something where they like, you can't show our characters as smoking, even though, the Penguin smokes in the comics for like 80 years. I mean, maybe he doesn't anymore. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I read a comic with a penguin in it. I don't read a lot of modern comics. But yeah, so no cigarette for this penguin. I remember them talking with the Batman. Colin Farrell really wanted to have what he referred to as the Penguin's trademark cigar, and I'm like, I think you mean the cigarette and the cigarette holder. but I wouldn't expect anybody who made that movie to actually read any comics. So, but it would have been nice to have him at least smoke a cigar. I will admit that. So anyway, there's no mid torso joint on this figure that I can see because like it's a portly figure. What would you do with that anyway? But he does have a nice joint at the hips where we can move him around any which way, get him in some cool poses that way. Like he's the Penguin, so he's not gonna be like that well articulated just in terms of like the nature of the character. She's so short and stubby. Even if you could fit the articulation in there, it wouldn't work as well. So you can kind of forgive that a little bit. He can move his leg up about that far. Again, got the rubber trunk piece in there that usually gets in the way. But again, stubby little legs. What are you going to do? And he does have a single joint of articulation at the knee. That's about as far as the knee goes. And it does rotate all the way around as well. And then the Penguin has, I can't tell if it's a ball joint in here because it's so deep in the pants leg. But you can bend his ankle down about that far and bend it up about that far. And it does rotate. So I'm guessing it's a ball joint underneath there. And he does have toe articulation. How about that? So, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the articulation on the Penguin. I do really like the colors on this guy. They all work together really well. He's got that black tuxedo jacket, black top hat with a purple band around the top. He's got the orange vest. He's got the purple pants. It's a nice rich shade of purple. Honestly, talking about the variant being an homage to the Superpowers figure, this one actually reminds me a lot of Mego's version of the Penguin, which I believe that one also had an orange vest and a shade of purple similar to this, which did not really occur to me at first, but now it does. I do kind of wish they'd made his monocle silver instead of white, because I think that would have worked a little bit better. Like probably the I knocked over a little bottle of model paint. I just want to pick it up before it gets kicked under my couch. But probably the white one would have worked better for Superpowers because it was colored white on Superpowers. But the one that's supposed to look a little more realistic, I think that white probably would have looked a little better. The sculpting on the face is great. Got a lot of character there. Like I said, he looks a lot like Danny DeVito. Not Danny DeVito when he played the Penguin, but like the actual Danny. If you made Danny DeVito up to look like Burgess Meredith, this is what he would look like. Got a little bit of just very subtle, looks like to me, like a little bit of airbrushing over the chin to give him a little bit of stubble, which is a nice touch. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and it looks really cool. So let's go ahead and put the umbrella in his hand and see what he looks like when he's holding that umbrella. And there we go. That's some classic Penguin up to no good. Let's see if we can get him into a good fencing pose. On guard! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Pengy I know and love. Oh man, he looks awesome. So yeah, this would be another good use for this hand. I think that would look good with a dueling kind of pose, but I think this one works just fine as far as that goes. So they did a great job with this figure. You know, you wouldn't expect a character who's like a little more comical and, you know, a little more cartoonish, like the classic version of the Penguin, to work so well in this Mcfarlane Toys format. But I gotta say, they knocked it out of the park, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Yeah, with the Arkham City version, where he's a little darker and creepier and a little more Tim Burton-ish. That's the kind of thing you expect from Mcfarlane. But you don't expect and we should at this point, because they've done a lot of really good classic style figures. So I don't want to sell them short. But it's not the sort of thing you typically expect out of Mcfarlane. But when they do it, they do a really good job with it. He does have a lot of interesting textures too. Like he's got the same sort of texture over his coat, very similar to what the Arkham version had, which makes sense because, like I said, they reused those arms. But they also have like a nice fabric texture. I don't know if you can make it out on the camera, but over the vest, there's a nice fabric texture. It looks really cool. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think I might still have the Riddler around here somewhere. so we can see what he looks like next to the Riddler. If I can dig that out. I've just got like piles of action figures here that I need to organize. But my room's been a mess lately because, you know, I hurt my back a while ago, so I was having a hard time motivating myself to do anything, especially something physical, like actually like organizing my room, and that was just I don't know, think about it. But I could have sworn I had that Riddler around here. So is that him way down there? It's either the Riddler or Kyle Rayner because they both have those light green boots. Please be the Riddler. No, it's Kyle Rayner. Yeah. Ah. Well, you know, I'm just gonna have to clean up around here because I got stuff like piled on top of stuff, and I can't even find the Riddler. I just knocked my camera over there. So maybe he's on the couch. Not too much crap around here. Because I know I just had the Riddler recently because I was comparing him to something. Him over there, or is that the Frank Gorshin Riddler? I can see that shade of green, and it's frustrating me that I can't tell what it is from here. Another soda can. It wouldn't be an Alan Belk unboxing video if I weren't knocking over soda cans, would it? So, well, I will get a picture later and try to remember to put him up on the community notes if I can. I'll get a picture of him and the Riddler and probably the clown Joker, and because that's the closest thing to a classic Joker that I have, and the Nightfall Catwoman. Since I think I'm going to open her tomorrow because I've been sitting on that one for a while, probably like a year now, and I need to get that open. So, but anyway, that's pretty much it for the Penguin. I really like this figure. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Definitely pick it up if you can. If you're somebody who's into classic Batman villains, like you can't get more classic Batman villain than this. That's pretty much it. Anyway, that's pretty much this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Penguin, both the figure and this character in general. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.